What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Bourbon and Boxing. I am your host, Jeff. This is episode 21. We're going to call this Freaky Friday, baby. Friday the 13th. Man, I'll tell you what, I started doing the show earlier, just was not in the mood, man. Just did not feel the rhythm, felt out of place. Maybe it's because it's Friday the 13th. Really didn't realize that. It's a little bit earlier. But now I know. So maybe that's why I felt a little weird. Now I'm jumping back on now to try to redo the show as we speak, get it right for you guys. Once again, this is Bourbon and Boxing. I am your host, Jeff, man. My show is all about where the drink is bourbon and the talk is boxing, man. That's what we do here. We're going to kick off this week once again with three main cards on the schedule, man. Two pretty big fights, in my opinion. Tim Tszyu versus Brian Mendoza. And then you're going to have Janabek versus Gutierrez, which is also going to be a good fight. And then we got another fight that we'll get into on top of that. We had a fight on Wednesday, thanks to our friends over in Canada, who gave us a little bit of a show on Friday. The main card on that was Mary Spencer versus Fimicky Hermans. Hermans won that fight. Wasn't a bad fight, but hey, we'll get into that and more. Let's jump into what we are drinking on, guys. Of course, I got something for, it's Friday the 13th, and it is October. So I thought, what better than what I found? This is called Smoking Wagon. It's out of Nevada, Las Vegas. It's a bourbon. You know, I usually don't mess with bourbons outside of Kentucky. I've learned my lessons a couple times on those other bourbons. But I thought I'll take a shot on this one. And I'll let you guys know I've taken a shot or two of it already. It's very smooth, like it says. But this is called Smoke Wagons. Check it out, man. Pretty cool bottle label, too, guys. For the holidays there. Can't get any much better and spookier than that, especially on a Friday the 13th, man. What are you talking about, guys? That's awesome. Then look at the back of it there. Little story behind it. Not much. Just tells you how smooth and rich and what they do. They pick the best barrels in the warehouse at the top of the list, and that's what they use for their best bourbon. Now, this stuff is pretty smooth, guys. I like it a lot. Now, before we get into our shot and then start our show, of course, you know we don't start our show till we get our shot of bourbon in us. And I told you guys last week, don't want to really do shots anymore. Kind of want to just sip on it a little bit, guys. Not get too much with it. But anyways, man, let's get to our sponsor of the show, Brown Family Construction, man. Any of your construction needs in the Northern Kentucky or Cincinnati area, reach out to Brown Family Construction, man. The name says it all. They treat you like family. They'll take care of you. Jason Brown is the guy you'll contact there. You find all their information on Facebook. And also at the end of my show, I'll pop up a little information, contact information for them to where you'll be able to get a hold of them for any of your construction needs. Once again, reach out to Brown Family Construction, guys. Thank you so much for that. Uh, Anyways, man, let's get this shot in and let's get to talking about the show. The main fight I want to break down this week is I want to break down the Tim Tszyu Mendoza fight. I think that's going to be a hell of a fight. Quite a few people calling for the upset there. About to kill my kids if they stomp one more time. But quite a few people calling for the upset. Shakur's picking Mendoza. Who was it? Mario Barros is also picking Mendoza to win the fight. He does have a lot of power. But hey, we'll get into that after this shot, man. Let's get this shot in so we can get this show rolling. Ugh. I do not know why I feel so out of place at the moment, but I do. Ugh. That stuff is not bad. It's nice and smooth. I swear, we talk about Friday the 13th. There's some kind of ghost in here. Every time I'm in here doing this show, this thing just creeps towards me a little bit further into my face. Gets on my nerves. But anyways, man, could just be because I don't have it tight enough up here. Shit, I'll tell you what, I can't get it no goddamn tighter. Can't get it no tighter. But hey, we got it in a good position, man. Let's take it down a little bit. Just take it down a notch, man. But look, we got three pretty good main cards this week. I want to jump into the Tim Tszyu Brian Mendoza fight. We got quite a few people calling an upset on this. I like Brian Mendoza a lot. Really tough fighter, man. After his loss to Jesus Ramos, he's had three KOs, a TKO and two KOs since then. One against Pandora, who's a 6'7" guy. Uh, he got a lot of credit for that knockout, which was it was a really good fight. He was fighting a good fight there, and then he landed just a perfect punch. That was a beautiful punch, though. But now he's taking on what I would say is definitely his toughest talent in Tim Tszyu. And everybody's talking about how he knocked out Pandora. How's Tszyu going to handle? In my opinion, bourbon burp, guys. Woo. Some of it does it, some don't. But anyways, in my opinion, man, Tszyu is not the fighter Pandora is. Tszyu has really good defense. And these guys got very, very similar styles. So it's hard to really break this fight down and say what one guy has to do to beat the other guy. I think they both stick to what they do. Nothing different for each guy. Mendoza's a laid back, lets the fight come to him, very patient, counterpuncher. That's what you get with Mendoza. He knows he has that heavy punch. He doesn't try to overuse it. He doesn't make it his main arsenal. He waits for that right opportunity to land it on you, and you better watch out when he throws it. If he lands it, there's going to be trouble. You might be sleeping. Tim Tszyu is the same way, man. I think these guys have very similar power. Tszyu is a more aggressive style fighter, so he's going to push the pace of that fight, no doubt. We saw him against Ocampo. Now, I can't really judge him off Ocampo because he made that dude look really stupid. I don't know if that dude will ever step in the ring again. I didn't know much about him before that fight, but after that fight, I would say I wouldn't ever step in the ring again if I was him. He'd look silly. He made him look silly. But we saw what he did against Tony Harrison. Pretty good against him. So Tszyu is a good fighter. He just hasn't been tested. So I truly think outside of Tony Harris, my bad, Tony Harris is a good test. Was a good test for him. But his biggest test is going to be Brian Mendoza to really see what scale or level he's at. Can Mendoza fight 12 rounds with him? I don't think he can. I don't think Tszyu or him with their style of boxing, this fight's going to go 12 rounds. I think at some point, Tszyu's going to either knock Mendoza out or Mendoza's going to knock Tszyu out. I think it's a very, very 50-50 fight, man. I kind of favor Tim Tszyu just a little bit, man. Not a lot, because I think overall he's a better boxer, a little bit more skilled than Brian Mendoza. Even though, don't get me wrong, man, Brian Mendoza is a hell of a fighter, guys. A hell of a fighter. His power is just very, very sneaky and good. I call him the quiet assassin for a reason. He sets back, he calculates, he figures out when he wants to throw that big punch. He doesn't rush it. He does, even when it looks like he might be losing the fight, he doesn't get flustered, and he still gets patient, and he waits. He doesn't overuse that big, heavy punch. A very calculated fighter, and that makes him really dangerous because, like I said, he's not in a rush to win that fight. He's in a rush to set up that punch. He's not in a rush to set up his big punch either. He's very patient and letting the fight come to him, and very patient and setting up that big punch. So Tim Tszyu definitely has to watch out for Brian Mendoza's power. But with that being said, man, I think Tszyu knows he's got a lot to prove, and that this fight could definitely take him to the next level, into a Charlo fight for sure. I think the winner of this fights Charlo, I believe, if Charlo ever comes back. Like I said, guys, he made $20 million. This guy fought once a year when he was making what he was making, which was probably pretty good money. But now that he made $20 million, you think he's going to come back anytime next year? I swear on my life, I guarantee you don't see this guy next year. You will not see Jamel Charlo next year, or Jamal, whichever one it is, the Charlo brother. You won't see him at 154 for at least another year. He'll take an entire year off boxing. These guys have no issue with doing it. And then, of course, boxing allows them to do it. And they don't punish him for it. You punish him for moving up, but you don't punish him for taking a year off of boxing. You don't punish his brother for taking 3 years out of boxing. You know what I mean? And taking their belts away from him. So to me, if he stays out of the ring for another year, then boxing has to step up, dude. Any of these guys who are only fighting once a year, there has to be something done about it. I'll say the same thing for Crawford and Spence. These guys are too big of a name to only be fighting once a year. When you got guys like Canelo fighting 2 to 3 times a year, you got guys like Lee Wood, who's fought, 3 or 4 times already this year. You got Big Baby Anderson, who's fought 3 times already this year. Uh, you know, you got guys out here fighting 3, 4 times a year, and then you got guys out here fighting once a year, holding a belt. And then while everybody else fights, and then they decide to come back and fight somebody who's not even in their weight division half the fucking time. Like you take Canelo, for example. He hasn't been out of the ring for a while, but he jumped up weights just to go fight Bivol, put the belts on hold at 168. Nothing was done. No suspension. Nothing said about, hey, you need to come back down and you need to fight the mandatory. And then when he finally comes back, he fights a John Ryder. That guy couldn't have been the mandatory, in my opinion. There's no way John Ryder was a mandatory. But now, you got a guy like David Benavidez out there. You got a Demetrius Andrade out there. You got, David Morrell out there. All these guys could have been fighting Charlo and having a chance at that. Jaime Munguia, guys like that who could have had an opportunity of fighting Canelo in that time. But instead, he jumps up, fights Bivol, jumps down, fights Ryder in his weight class, and then takes a guy at 154 to jump up and fight him instead of fighting a guy, a mandatory in his weight class. I think that's where boxing has to jump in and start making stricter rules to say you can't take a fight at 150, fighting a guy at 154 unless that guy's moving up that weight division permanently. He's not moving up just to fight you and jump back down. And I know that happens in boxing. You go up, you go down, all that other stuff. But most of the time when you go up in weight, you normally don't go back down in weight. That's something you hardly ever see. You don't see Crawford going back down to junior welterweight. You don't see him jumping down to lightweight at 135 where he used to be. He's at 147 and he's talking about going up, not going back down. Most fighters don't go back down. So I think unless a guy's coming up to that division permanently, then you shouldn't be fighting him. And, those fights shouldn't be happening and a belt being basically on hold because you don't want to fight the mandatories or the guys who are actually in that division. But, so I think Charlo, I don't know if we see him for a while. So after this Tim Tszyu and Brian Mendoza fight, who do you get Charlo? Does boxing force him to come in within this year and not, if you let him set out to October, to me, that's a year, basically. If he sets out to October, that's over a year that he was in the ring. And that's the kind of stuff that drives. If you're healthy, you shouldn't be setting out and only fighting once a year. But getting back, before I get off track too much about that, the Tim Tszyu Mendoza fight, like I said, Tszyu's a more aggressive style fighter, but these guys have very similar styles. I think Tszyu is a little bit better of the defensive guy, but Mendoza is a silent assassin, man. You got to watch out for that big punch from him, man. So breaking this fight down, I'm going to give Tszyu just a little bit of the edge in this fight because of his defensive prowess and his more aggressive style with a big punch like he's got. So he's going to come in there. He's going to attack you. He's not going to set back and be patient like Mendoza is, which I don't think is going to allow. He's going to allow Mendoza to get comfortable because when Mendoza's being patient, he's also getting comfortable in the ring. And he's getting comfortable with you and your style as he's breaking you down. He's making you fight his fight. Tszyu's not going to allow him to do that. I think Tim is going to come in and be the aggressor and push that fight. Don't let him get comfortable. If you're Tszyu, don't let him calculate that big punch. Don't ever give him an opportunity to throw that big punch. Either end it early or just absolutely be so aggressive that this guy doesn't have a chance or has no choice but to throw back with you. And forcing a puncher to punch could be dangerous too for anybody. If you force Mendoza to punch, we know he has that power. But maybe you could catch him throwing that big punch and leaving himself open. That's what you would hope as for if you're Tszyu. But I give Tszyu a little bit of edge in this fight, even though I'm a big fan of Mendoza, and I call him the Silent Assassin. That's my nickname for him. I like him. He's a dangerous guy, but I think Tszyu prevails, and he shows everybody that he's the next guy at 154 to be reckoned with, man. And he possibly set up a fight with Crawford down the road in the future, too. But outside of that, that division's not really, you got Charlo, Tszyu, Mendoza, Fandora, a couple of these other guys. Jesus Ramos is there, but he just took a loss. Tough loss for him. A loss I don't think he deserved to take to Lubin. You got Lubin there. So you got some talent in that division, but not enough to me to prevail anybody's name. If you can get Charlo beat him, unify that division, then you might have a chance at a guy like Crawford coming up. If Crawford comes up to 154, then with Spence, Crawford, Lubin, Mendoza, Charlo, Tszyu, Pandora, all these guys, that's a pretty Tony Harris, even that's a pretty stacked division, in my opinion. So you can't take that lightly if you can get a Crawford or Spence. We know Spence is going to be moving up to 154, so he's more than likely going to be the name at 154 for guys to have to beat or want to challenge to, because he's going to want to go for the belts immediately. And I think with his status, even with his loss to Crawford, he's going to be the mandatory moving up to 154, in my opinion, to fight any of the top guys, Tszyu, Mendoza, any of these guys. So we'll see how that goes in that division. Let's take another shot before we get into the other fights that are going on. Not a lot of boxing news. Whoa. Not a lot of boxing news this week. Been rather on the quiet side, just a lot of talking, stuff like that. But you also got on the schedule today, like I said, you have Janabek fighting. He will be fighting Gutierrez. That will be a good fight, even though I think Janabek wins that fight. Uh, Janabek's one of those guys, he's in limbo. Is he as good as advertised? And if he is, who wants to fight him? Especially in that middleweight division. So, being a middleweight, there should be some good challengers for him, I would think. Once again, and that's a good division to be in. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, you also got Miguel Berchelt versus Diego Ruiz on Saturday too, which is going to be a good fight. Both of these guys have multiple losses on the record and are kind of on their last leg, so that's going to be a banger to fight, man. That's what I underestimated with the Ramirez and Smith Jr. fight, was both of these guys were on a must-win basis, and just like this fight that's going to be happening against these guys, it's a must-win for both of these guys, man. So I would definitely tune into that one. That one's going to be on the zone. And somewhere in Meridia, I don't know where the hell that's at. But the Tim Tszyu fight is also, I'm pretty sure that's, Tim Tszyu. Mendoza's going to be on Showtime, and then you're going to get Janabek fight on ESPN. So you can if you got multiple TV, spread them out, get ready to watch multiple fights tomorrow. But I'm tuning into the Tim Tszyu fight. That to me is going to be the best fight out there. Him and Mendoza, that's just going to be a hell of a fight. Goodness gracious, boy. Them bourbon, some of that bourbon just gives me the burps. But hey, man, not a lot to talk about today. Like I said, not a lot of news going on out there. Even on my site now, I did see where Berlanga is saying that he'll fight Jaime Magia, and that Canelo's that will line up a Canelo fight. I don't know who told this kid that he would get a Canelo fight. I really think Hearns, the only way he got him to even come over to Matchroom was he told him he was going to get a Canelo fight, which I don't know why you would ever tell him that. That's the one, like I said, that's the issue I have with Hearns. Hearns is a liar, guys. He lies a lot, dude. He will tell you shit's going on that's not even close to happening, and no negotiations and terms or nothing like that. And that's what I can't stand about Hearns and that part of it. I think he's a good promoter, puts on good fights, but he blows so much smoke up people's ass. It's unreal. I think he did the same thing to Berlanga. I think he blew the smoke up his ass that, oh, you're going to get the Canelo for, oh, promise you come over to Matchroom. We're going to put you against the best over here in Matchroom. Yeah, fucking McQuinley, yeah, he was really the best. That was a tough fight for Berlanga. But then if he can fight Jaime McGee, I think that's a good test for him. Where he goes from there, I have no idea, guys. Matchroom work with PBC coming up in 2024, basically going to be under a new regime. if it's Amazon, if it's Matchroom, or if it's Top Rank. Whoever it is, they're going to be under somebody new in 2024. So then maybe Berlanga can set up a fight against David Morrell, or set up a fight against Benavidez, or set up a fight against Demetrius Andrade outside of Jaime Miguel, because Matchroom doesn't really have anybody at that weight class that's gonna, outside of Jaime McGee, that's really gonna challenge Berlanga or test him. I think Jaime is a great test for him, and Mejia, I think Mejia wins that fight. Berlanga thinks he's gonna roll through Mejia. I think Mejia is a lot tougher than what people think he is. I think he showcased that against Derevchenko when he fought him. I mean, I watched this guy just, he's got a way better chin than a lot of people realize, and he took an ass whooping in front of his grandma. So come on, guys. He didn't lose the fight, but I'm sure his grandma was like, oh, me, mijo, no. You know, you getting her ass kicked. But he ended up winning the fight. And, you know, it was a fight he needed, a big fight like that, because, you know, the guy's like, 40-0, and he has fought absolutely nobody outside of Derevchenko. So, you know, he wanted the Charlo fight. Something fell through with that. I heard he didn't want the Demetrius Andrade fight. I did hear that Jaime, which would have been a great fight. They were both in the same stable at the time, Matchroom. That fight should have been made, but for some reason, Jaime Mejia didn't want that. Maybe it was more Golden Boy didn't want him to take that fight, which I don't know why. I mean, if you want your guy to be proven, you should have put him up against Demetrius Andrade. You can't push a product like Jaime Mejia at 40-0, and you look at his record, and you're like, God damn, this guy has fought literally nobody's. He's fought one guy, Derevchenko, that is decent. He's a tough fighter. He's decent. He's a good vet fighter. He's going to test you. But he's not that level guy that's going to make people go, oh, yeah, McGee is a real deal. If he fights Berlanga, beats Berlanga, then you can say, okay, he's pretty good. Who can we match him up with now? And like I said, if PBC comes over to Matchroom or goes over to Prime, and you can possibly start making deals with them a little bit easier now that they're not with Showtime, then Mejia can, or Berlanga will have an opportunity to fight bigger, better fighters. But with the Matchroom stable at 168, neither of these guys are going to get anybody tough outside of themselves. So fight each other, guys. Stop thinking you're going to get the Canelo fight. Mejia, we know you're not going to get the Canelo fight. Berlanga, you sure the fuck ain't going to get the Mejia fight. Let's be realistic here, dude. You don't have the resume to even be considered for that fight. You know what I mean? Your resume doesn't, I mean, what the fuck? You got 16, 17, 18, 19 fights? I'm not for sure. You don't have the resume for that fight. And I don't think you're ready for that level yet. At this early in your career, go after Mejia, build yourself up. Go fight a David Morrell. You know, if you want to prove yourself, you can beat David Morrell. You can beat just about anybody, I would think. Definitely, and you would definitely be taken serious at 168. If you beat Jaime McGee and you beat him convincingly, then you'll be taken serious at 168, and that will open the door for him to get bigger, better fights. But right now, he's so dead set on getting a Canelo fight that I think he's outselling himself for other fights. Like, he's not opening himself up to other fights. He thinks, oh, I'm going to get the Canelo fight. Well, Canelo is with Showtime at the moment. Showtime is not going to make, well, I mean, they might. They made a deal, Golden Boy, but Berlanga's not with Golden Boy. That's the problem. He's with Matchroom, not Golden Boy. Golden Boy made a deal with Showtime. And they got those two fighters together, Tank and Garcia. But can Matchroom and Showtime, would they ever make a deal for him to be able to fight like a Berlanga or somebody like that? Or not Berlanga, but, you know, Morrell or David Morrell or Benavidez. Bigger fighters like that. So he's got to think about that also. I think he was sold that Canelo fight. And I don't know why he thought in his mind that he would get that fight. Somebody had to place it there. And I would think it was Eddie Hearns blowing smoke up his ass like he likes to do, just selling him something that wasn't there. You know, you hate to see that happen because, and all these guys, I think, and you saw it in Charlo, they see Canelo as a payday. They don't think I can beat Canelo. They think I'll get paid if I fight Canelo. That's the only reason they want to fight Canelo. They don't want to fight Canelo to beat Canelo and be the top at 168. They want to fight him so they can make a payday. Regardless, win or lose, they got paid. And that's shitty, bro. Nobody should be used for a payday. Canelo's not stupid. He also sees that. He sees guys want to use him for a payday. all day. He even mentions that I'm not a payday for people. So, Charlo, we watched him get in there against Canelo, just put on a sad ass, I'm not going to throw any punches, take my $20 million and walk away. I'm good to go. And he made $20 million, so who gives a fuck, right? Fuck your pride. Fuck your legacy. Fuck your legend. Excuse my language. But that's basically how these guys look at it. There is no more love and joy of the sport, man. Nobody does it just for the love of the sport anymore, right? Everybody does it to get paid. And it's sad to see because it takes a lot out of sports, man. It takes away from team chemistry and like the NFL and Major League Baseball and the NBA. It takes away from a lot of team chemistry when you've got these 2 or 3 guys making fucking $200-300 million, and the rest of the guys are on the bench barely making barely making a living in the league. They're making good money, but there's such a distinguish, and the guys who got their money, they don't care anymore if they win or lose. And then the guys that are on the bottom, they want to win. And the guys who already got paid don't give 2 shits because they got their money. Who cares now? And I think that's where sports went sideways in a lot of ways with a lot of things. And money was the main thing. Once we started saying, yeah, we're going to pay these guys hundreds of millions of dollars, that's where it just went out the window. And even in boxing, when we got to the point where we're like, Canelo's going to make, or Charlo's going to make $20 million just to fight Canelo. For a boxer, that's game-ending money. Once you make that, your drive, your will, what are you fighting for now? Because it used to be you fought for legacy, legend, and your own pride. Now it's, hey, I get paid. Screw you guys, I'm out. And that's what makes boxing. It's an individual, independent sport. So these guys are out for themselves. And I get that because you got managers, promoters, all these guys want to fuck you. So you have to be out for yourself in a way. You have to look out for your family because there's no retirement fund. There's no medical fund. There's no benefits in boxing. There's no retirement fund for you guys. Like when you leave and you got brain damage from getting hit in the head all these years, there's nothing that's going to pay you out for that. So if you didn't save the money you made, then you're screwed. So I can get I want to make the money, and that's what I'm here for. Most of these guys come from poverty, and that's what a fighter is. Most times they just grew up fighting in their neighborhood, all that. They fight to survive. Once you start to make that money, what are you fighting for? You're not fighting to survive. That's where I have a lot of respect for Canelo. I think I said this last week. A guy who has made easily $1 billion in his career, easily, and he still goes out and fights for the glory, fights for legacy. Even after he's made his money, he goes in the gym and he trains every day. He's not fighting once a year and then being like, "Oh, you're lucky if I fight you. You're lucky if I pick you. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. All y'all been waiting and fighting each other all year, and then I'm gonna fight this guy over here left field. None of you guys have been waiting. That's half of fucking boxing." I say the same thing with Crawford. I like Crawford. I respect Crawford, but he's a once-a-year fighter. I like and respect Spence, but he's a once-a-year fighter. Charlo, a once-a-year fighter. I can't get into those guys because you don't allow me to get, I get to see you once a year. Woo! And then I know I'm not going to see you for another year. I'm not going to see you for another year. I know that already when it comes to these guys. So how can I be a fan of you? If by the time you come back around, I done forgot about your ass. Oh, yeah, Crawford. Oh, yeah, hell yeah, he's a hell of a fighter. Fucking A, man, he's like 37 years old. So keep fighting once a year. So by the time he's 40, he'll fight 4 more fights. That's where we're at with Crawford. The pound for pound number 1 fighter in the world is like 36 years old right now. He'll give us 1 fight a year for the next 4 years till he's 40 years old, and he'll retire from the sport. So we'll get 4 more fights in 4 years out of this guy. I mean, is that not crazy? I mean, to think that he could fight 3 times a year, and in 3, 6, 9, 12, that's 12 fights he could get under his belt in that time. And that's money being made, so it's not like it's 12 fights and he's not getting fucking paid for it, right? It's not like I'm saying, hey, go out and fight 3 times a year, but you're only going to get paid for once a year. You're getting paid for all 3 of those times, and a guy like Crawford's going to get paid pretty decent money. We all know that. The money's going to be out there for that guy, especially after putting the beating on Spence like he did. So he could go out with even more money, or he could be happy with what he made and say, okay, I'm cool. I'll fight once a year. I can't get into those guys, man. That's why I've got Lee Wood as my fighter of the year. A guy who's come out and fought 3 times this year, maybe 4 times. It might have been 3. Yeah, 3 times in 7 fucking months, guys. 7 months. Lee Wood fought 3 times in 7 months. He's my fighter of the year. Big Baby Anderson has fought like 3 times in 7 months. He's right up there too. These guys out here fighting multiple times a year, 2, 3 times a year. Those are the guys I'm respecting, man. Even if you fight every 6 months, twice a year, you're giving us every 6 months, you know? But the once a year guys, man, I just can't do it, guys. I can't do it. I can't do those guys. I respect them. I respect Crawford's skills, Spence's skills, Charlo's skills, but I just can't get into you guys when you're only giving me once a year, man. By the time you come back around, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's Crawford. I can't be a fan of somebody. That would be like watching my favorite football team once a year and then claiming that I'm a fan of them, right? And then not watching them the other, 16 times a year they play. But I only watch them once a year, but I'm a fan. You know what I mean? That's how it would be. Like, you can't really become a fan if you only got to see your favorite football team once a year. How big of a fan are you going to be of them? Anyways, man, before I get to ranting on about stuff, you know what I'm saying? We know the fight's coming up. David Benavidez, he has a fight coming up. It's been officially announced. They did a press conference, everything, against Demetrius Andrade. That's going to be a really, really tough fight, guys. Man, I can't say enough how Demetrius Andrade definitely deserves this opportunity to showcase his skills at the top level against the top guy. He's been calling everybody out since he started. And nobody wanted to step up, so I give Benavidez credit for stepping up against a guy like Andrade, who is not going to be an easy fight for him. It's going to be a tough fight. I think that's November 25th, something like that, that I might have seen, November 25th. I did not realize that the, Fury versus Ngannou fight was October 28th. I didn't realize that. I thought it was in November for some reason. That fight is October 28th, so we got that coming up this month. So, hey, boxing's going to go out on a good year, guys. But like I said, man, just wanted to jump in here, break down the Tszyu Mendoza fight, Janabek, talk about the Janabek fight, which I didn't talk much about. I don't know much about Gutierrez, the guy that he's fighting. I know Janabek's really tough, but we'll see where he goes. He's one of those guys that are in limbo at the moment. And then, you got a good little fight on the zone also. So, tune into those fights, guys, and tune into my show every Friday. I'm your host, Jeff. This is Bourbon and Boxing. This is episode 21, Freaky Friday, baby, because it's Friday the 13th, man. And like I said, this joke started off a little rough for me and wanting to get it done. But, hey, man, I got it done, man. Had some weird vibes going, Friday the 13th vibes. You know what I mean? But, hey, I got it done. Got this nice, smooth bourbon that we're drinking on. Once again, guys, this is called Smoke Wagon. Some good stuff. Nice little picture for Halloween. I like that. But, hey, man, hats off to you guys. Thank you for tuning in for another episode, man. Join me every Friday, like I said, for a new episode. And also check me out on Facebook. I have a group on there called Bourbon and Boxing that I post daily news and schedules and results, all that fun stuff, man. Also post some little videos on there, share stuff from other sites, all that kind of fun things, guys. But join me on Facebook, join me here on YouTube, on my channel, man. Subscribe, like my video, whatever, man. View it. Just view it. Check me out, man. Give me an opportunity. Thank you guys for tuning in. Anybody who is tuning in, thank you to my 23 subscribers, man. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you guys subscribing to me. Thanks for showing the love, and see you guys later.